Hello and welcome to the Hubscale Podcast. Today, I am delighted to welcome Aaron Shilts, CEO of NetSPI. Aaron, great to have you on the podcast.
Jake, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Look, we have so much to talk about, as you know. Obviously, really keen to talk to you very much about your personal journey, everything from network engineer, exactly where you started from, and obviously CEO now of NetSPI. We're going to delve into NetSPI itself, the acquisitions, the growth, platform transformation, and then, the future, realistically, how 2025, 2026 looks for NetSPI. I suppose the best place to start is, tell everyone who you are, a little bit about you, a bit about your journey. Kick us off, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Jake. For me, really even going back to a pretty young age, I love building. And, that started in my dad's workshop with woodworking and electronics and a lot of other things.
Nice.
Like a lot of people in my generation, some of the first computers we had were Commodore 64s and, some of the early like IBM PCs, and had an opportunity and parents that were very supportive at a young age, right? So I just love tinkering. And, with that first like set of computers, the thought of like putting words and code into it and then some kind of outcome and building kind of like mini applications and stuff just got me really excited. I actually remember it was probably like seventh or eighth grade for a science fair type project. This is maybe my first entry into security, but building kind of like a circuit board with different switches, and it would sense when a door was open and sense motion and all of these other things. And as I think back, it's like, wow, I was kind of like starting in security pretty early. But then anyway, at the ripe old age of 15, I remember also like something we don't hear a lot about today, like the old school computer store. There was a computer store in our small town that we lived in. And I actually owe a lot to a gentleman named Tim Brown, who I kept bugging for a job. He owned this computer store. He obviously didn't have a meaningful job for a 15-year-old kid like me, but I was like, man, I'll sweep the floor or whatever. Like I love just working with this stuff. And he gave me a shot, and ultimately ended up building some pretty cool things and getting more into the technology side at a young age, and even leading some small teams. I remember one night I was like online tinkering with, at the time it was called a BBS or bulletin board system, kind of like the modern equivalent of a forum. And I'm like tinkering with files on the back end and crashed the entire thing at 2 a.m. All the active users got booted, and like he had to get out of bed and come in. So like it's it's been a journey. But anyway, that's like the early stuff a long time ago. But I had my first opportunity in business right out of college. I worked in telco, in the telco space, and for Sprint at the time, and had an opportunity to work in security for Sprint, and started in kind of network engineering, and then got into services and independent consulting. And then, another person I owe a lot to is Gary Fish. I met Gary in the early 2000s. He was the founder of Fishnet Security, which ultimately became Optiv. Then he went on to found Fish Tech, which became Sideris, and just like a serial and very successful entrepreneur. So I was one of the early team members at Fishnet, and was delivering services to our customers, working closely with customers. When you're small, you're doing everything. I go on sales calls and help build out the office and do whatever. But interestingly, Jake, like one of the things I identified fairly early in that time at Fishnet, as I was doing technical work and working with customers, is like, man, there's a lot of people on this team smarter than me technically. I maybe need to find a little bit better, little different niche here. I may need a little bit different path, because this isn't going to end well. and I just
you knew your strengths. You knew your strengths.
Yeah, man. I mean, and we had a team of just brilliant people. So it kind of shifted over, and that's really my first experience with acquisitions and with integrating companies and building organizations was in those early days of Fishnet. We did a lot of acquisitions. We worked with several different private equity companies. I really a debt of gratitude to Gary and that team for giving me the exposure to some of those board meetings and sitting on boards with private equities. That's helped inform the work that I'm doing at NetSPI with our private equity partners and with our customers. So Yeah, so spent about 14 years there. We had a very successful outcome and ultimately had the opportunity to join something a little smaller at NetSPI in 2017. 2017 coming in, NetSPI was much smaller, bootstrapped, founder owned, and just partnered with the founders and then their new private equity partner, Sunstone Partners, to really, double down on what the founders had built and really turn it into a high growth story and double down on, and again, that foundation and culture and see what we could do with it. It's been a heck of a run since 2017, and we can get into some of those details. But yeah, I've been fortunate to be in this role and just love the work I do.
Love that. Yeah, I love it. But I suppose before we get into NetSPI, fishing, obviously you mentioned there, like how did you know you wanted to get? I know you mentioned there was some really good technical people, and you thought let's get a little bit more of a niche. What made you think going down the more, I don't know, the consultancy side was a little bit more you? Like how did you realize that, and also how did you get the opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's definitely different personas in cyber or any career really, and one of the things you see there's certain roles and people that just really enjoy kind of like being behind the scenes, whether that's a developer or pen tester. There's some people
Yeah,
that enjoy that work and just kind of like having peace and quiet and doing their work. I really prefer just being out with customers and
yeah,
solving problems, and that's where I think it's just key for anyone. Obviously, this is something in your work every day is helping people find what they're passionate about.
yeah.
And man, when you do, it's not really work.
Mm,
It becomes a lot of fun, and you build these relationships. And to answer your second question, I mean, how I got that opportunity, I literally just picked up the phone and called the main line at Fishnet, which was very small at the time, and said, "Hey, I'd like to speak to Gary, the CEO." And got through to him. And I said, and I was kind of independent consulting at the time. And I said,
yeah.
maybe I can help you if you're not ready to hire full time. You can subcontract to me. We could do some work together. And we proceeded to kind of talk on and off for probably the next 12 months. Like I was patient. He had some other things going on. And then ultimately it worked out
Yeah.
where I came on and helped start building the company and started by helping build our presence in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Amazing. Yeah. So you had that. Yeah. Obviously, you're a techie by heart, but you had that little in the nous, the customer facing, the that sort of side to your belt, really, to sort of, I suppose, like you said, create a bit of a niche about what you wanted to do, really, which is great. I
Yeah.
love that. Absolutely
I
love
think
it.
from a career perspective too, like having some sort of specialization is really important,
Mm,
whether it's on the network side or database or now cloud, but certainly cyber. And in some ways, luck of the draw picked the right one because cyber's obviously been a pretty good run over the past 25 years.
yeah. What made you what made you go to NetSPI? Back in 2017. What drew you over there?
Yeah, I mean, and I had known Deke George, one of the founders, well. You sort of see him pass each other in the airport, see each other at trade shows and stuff like that. I liked what they were doing. I'd heard good things. Then got connected with the private equity company that came in, and they're like, "Man, I think we've got a diamond in the rough here." I mean, relatively small at the time, maybe 40, 50 employees. But they said just what we see as far as the customers that they're serving, the quality that they're delivering, just the culture of the team feels just like ripe for growth. And so that got me excited about it. And so as I went in, and I actually did some consulting work for the private equity company before joining as an employee, and I just loved what I saw.
Yeah.
And honestly, I came from a much larger organization, and I saw some logos and long-term customers of NetSPIs that we would have died for at the previous companies. I'm like, okay, they must be doing something right.
Yeah, love that. Absolutely love it. Well, I think obviously we've spoken in the past, and obviously, I'm sure everyone can see from the outset, NetSPI are, since 2017, massively grown, the acquisitions, everything like that. I'm going to just, before we go into that, for anybody that doesn't know, what do you guys do? What does NetSPI do? Tell me a bit about NetSPI.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and actually was part of what drew me in. So one of the things I loved about NetSPI was their focus. So we work in a very specific segment of cybersecurity called offensive security or proactive security. We go into, some of the largest enterprises on earth and help them understand and uncover where they have flaws in their applications, in their networks, in their devices. It could be mainframes, it could be ATM machines, whatever it is. We find flaws, essentially vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
All code has them, and all systems run on some level of code. So we find those, and we help them understand how they need to fix them, and then follow up with remediation testing to ensure they're patched up. So I love the focus. I mean, the reality is in cybersecurity, it's really hard to deliver at a high level of quality and be all things to all people. You just can't do it effectively. The market expects some level of specialization. So that drew me in. I think the second thing was NetSPI was really looking to transform an industry that was, really it was largely just pure professional services and humans. And we saw an opportunity to bring in technology to help those pen testers or humans do their job more effectively and take some of the boring and repetitive work away so that they could spend time on high value findings, and also delivering an interface to customers that was much more advanced. So typically, like if you think of a large financial institution, for instance, they're delivering or they're working on hundreds, maybe even thousands of applications that need to be tested. So you would have like a NetSPI, and often like NetSPI, along with several of our competitors, working on that program, testing across hundreds or maybe even thousands of apps. The old school way of doing it is each of us as providers would give them a PDF. And it's like, here's all the stuff you need to fix. Good luck. And it doesn't scale. And so we thought, man, this really all needs to be put into a system with workflows that integrate with our customers' backend systems and help them remediate faster. So I saw that opportunity to bring technology to bear. That's our PTAS offering, and the market was just extremely receptive to it. It was not an easy journey. So for me, coming from more of the services side to learn kind of the product development side of the house and build and ship software, it's really hard. It's very hard. And so there's been many learnings and humbling moments along the way.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? I suppose you wouldn't. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning, doesn't it? In terms of the challenge, you don't want to be coming in somewhere and just turning the clog in the wheel. I think that's probably the best. Whether that's the right way I'm saying it, but you want to be challenged. You want to be doing something new all the time, and where things can go. And in terms of the growth then that you've been on, obviously 7 or 8 years ago, 40, 50 people, I think you said. And like I said at the start, and probably everybody knows, obviously you've been on that massive growth journey. You've obviously made a few acquisitions along the way. Whole platform transformation. I've mentioned probably everything, but yeah, tell me a bit about the journey that you've been on, highlights. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on, I suppose, over the last few years and how you've got to where you are today as such a big player in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, several points in the journey that were more difficult than others. So, for instance, scaling up our go-to-market function and bringing in new sales leaderships and scaling up a sales organization was the first kind of core part of the thesis, is just organic growth. Too often, I think people can get stars in their eyes around M&A, and that's going to solve all their problems and go acquire companies. And when you have a very high quality asset, you have to be very careful with acquisitions. So we look at dozens. I mean, just during the time at NetSPI, we've probably looked at 100 acquisitions, and so far we've done 3. And so I think you just have to be careful not to get stars in your eyes and ensure, whenever you're looking at M&A, and I'll explain some of the reasons on the ones that we did. There's kind of a few gates that I think you need to pass. First is just like, is it a good strategic fit? In our case, we focus on this offensive security segment of cyber. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense for us to go buy an incident response company. And it's just not our thesis is to stay very focused to deliver the best service for our customers. So something that fits our strategy and vision, obviously the timing and the money part's got to be right. And then the third and the most difficult gate is just the culture match. And I think anyone who's been part of M&A has seen it. I've seen it, good and bad, in all of the ones that I've done. But if the teams aren't a good cultural fit, they will remain kind of remnants of their individual companies, and they will be forever at odds.
Just lack of collaboration, do you mean? And just
exactly. Customers feel it, Your performance will feel it. So we're very fortunate. So the first one we did was a company out of Salt Lake City called Silent Break, very similar to us, very strong red team capabilities, just an awesome customer portfolio. That office is still open. We still have many of those team members that are with us and have been promoted up through the ranks. We did that one in the heart of COVID, which was interesting, just like doing diligence meetings and meeting people and all the other stuff. It's the only time I'll use that word in this podcast, by the way. I won't invoke it. The second was a company called Invisium. Again, just a really solid team, great base of customers. And the third is a little bit of a different acquisition for us. And this is the acquisition of Hubble, Tom Parker's company we acquired less than a year ago to bring Chasm functionality to our platform. Chasm is basically like the ability of our platform to understand what's on your internal network. So it integrates with all kinds of different systems internally to give you visibility of your network. And it's one of the things we see our customers, continue to struggle mightily with, is just knowing what they have. So that's been a great acquisition. We then are now working to take the code and what Hubble had built and shift it over to the NetSPI platform. That's GA the end of this month.
Yeah. How's that? I suppose, how's that been going? How's the transformation going and the integration of everything? And yeah, is that, I suppose, question, and I know you mentioned the culture and everything like that, collaboration with it. Has it been going well the last 12 months?
Yeah, it's work. And, we certainly, when we closed that acquisition, I think it was like May or June of 24, we thought, okay, we can get this thing like integrated and in the NetSPI platform by the end of the year. And here we are, March of 25. So it always takes longer than you think. There's always things that you run into, but I think it's so important as a leader, to push, but also have patience and ensure you do things right. And that when you do go GA with the platform and with these new modules on the platform, that they're of the quality our customers expect. So the team's working incredibly hard, not only, the team that came on board from Hubble, but also working with our larger development team. But it's a lot. And, it may seem easy to kind of lift and shift code. It is anything but.
Yeah, I've been told. I've definitely been told that in the past. And in terms of the growth and everything, obviously the M&As, like you said, they help. But it's got to be the right time and everything like that. Prior to those M&As and obviously as in between them, the growth has just been the sort of natural, and then just having the right salespeople. How's that been as well? Is that just been the general consensus, just getting great leaders in there and sort of driving that from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that we've done differently in our sales model. Some of this is just informed from my experience in the past. But we work to bring up the next generation of sales reps. So we've got a very aggressive SDR or BDR program. So we bring in, hungry young talent right out of college, and they're on the phones, basically working to get meetings with customers. And it's a great it's obviously good for like demand gen and meeting generation and activity, but it's really our proving ground for our, for reps that we then promote internally. So some of our SDRs that we first brought into the program in 2018 are now top majors reps for us, serving some of the largest companies in the world. So that's been a big part of our thesis. We just had our sales kickoff in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago. It's just it's an incredibly sharp team that is extremely collaborative. Sometimes one of the things you'll see on sales teams is a little bit of a siloed approach where they like got their deals, they own their accounts, but they don't necessarily collaborate across the org. It is the opposite here. Our reps are also collaborating with each other, even if it's not their account. They're mentoring and helping each other. We lean heavily into, especially for our younger reps, we lean heavily into an in-office presence. They're in the office. I mean, you go to our headquarters, and any given time, there's at least 70, 80 people kind of like around this sales pit, and a ton of just awesome energy. They're learning from each other by listening to calls. They're celebrating wins together. It's just a ton of fun. And you bring customers in there. Customers love it as well. They sense and feel that culture. Yeah,
it's good. I love that. I absolutely love it. And I think that sometimes can, like you said, if you're not in the office, you miss that aspect. And I also think that can be missed when you grow and you get larger as well. And I think it's great to hear that it's stayed the same. The culture's great. People are still learning off each other, and that development phase is also pushing through still, which is it's amazing to hear. It's really, really good. So I suppose on the next, how, I wanted to really sort of delve into how things are looking for the future, 2025, 2026, even beyond really. But yeah, how are things looking? I think obviously on everybody's lips is AI. How is that sort of looking for you? I know you've talked about it previously in previous podcasts, but yeah, how's everything looking on that for NetSPI in terms of AI? What are you looking to do on that?
Well, it's a market that's evolving rapidly, as
Mm,
we all know. You think of, what's going to happen 2, 3, 4 years from now, it's going to look very different. So we are fully embracing it in a variety of ways. I mean, you think about the work that we do in cyber, which is to find vulnerabilities and help our customers fix them before they're exploited. It's really an arms race. So there's an adversary out there that is absolutely leveraging AI to find these same vulnerabilities and exploit them and break into our customers' environments. And so, we have to employ similar technology to find them as fast as we can. And also, whether it's AI or just simple kind of like software-based automation,
yeah,
one of the things that we're very focused on, again, we spend a lot of time in the large enterprise, and they have massive sprawling environments and numbers of applications that with traditional testing, they are not able to test at scale and certainly not continuously. So again, whether it's AI or the other just automation and technology we're building, we got to be able to test across their entire portfolio, and we have to do it continuously. And because again, the adversary is working continuously to exploit those systems. So it's required some different hiring for us. And again, kind of back to your business. I mean, we traditionally are hiring comp sci or maybe electrical engineers or other technical people like that. We've had to shift into data scientists and
yeah,
mathematicians and hiring a dedicated AI team. And so we're using that team to help our customers understand and perform testing on their LLMs and on their AI environments, and then also building the technology into our systems from a testing and automation and efficiency perspective. And then it really flows through the entire organization. We're leveraging it in our marketing team. We're leveraging it in our sales teams to help inform them. For instance, before they go have a meeting with a customer, we've got tools that help them pull together all of the past interactions that we know about in documents and emails and Slacks and everything on that customer and inform them and prep them for the next meeting so we can show up smart.
nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah, we're leveraging a lot of different tools. And one of the things I hear from our teams, just to be very transparent, is concern around AI. So if you're
mm,
if you're a pen tester performing manual testing and that's kind of like your career and what you've done, it's like, well, how is this not going to take our job? The thing that we hear so often. And one of the analogies I use, if have you seen the Iron Man movies? They're one of my favorites.
of
Like
course.
awesome, right?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah,
so you think of like Tony Stark. I mean, Iron Man, obviously, the cloak and all the stuff that he has is kind of like AI, but that cloak's not really much good without Tony Stark underneath it. And
yeah. I
so
like that.
we really firmly believe in this kind of intersection of technology and talent. The AI that we build and the things that we do are meaningless without the people we have behind the scenes. And the other thing we so consistently hear from our customers is we are overloaded with tools and
Yeah,
alerts and false positives. Like we need humans to still navigate through that with us. And that's just really continues to be our sweet spot.
yeah. I think yeah, it's so important to say that. Yeah, I think there is some people have that concern, don't they, that it's potentially going to take people's jobs, or it's going to reduce that sort of layer of people within that, maybe that first line, or the sort of. But realistically, it's just eliminating and I think going back to what you mentioned very early on in the podcast, that the mundane side, focusing on the high value ticketing items, and all that automation and AI is going to do is allow people to do things a lot quicker, more efficient, faster, and better. And it's embracing that really more than anything, I think, and making sure that everybody's upskilled in it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's right. And I think if you do it right, it leads to a much better work life for in our case, our pen testers. I mean, it just helps automates the automatable and focus on the things that they actually really enjoy, which isn't like spending 8 hours in a Word document. I
yeah,
guarantee you that. And then, the other thing is like, why do it if you can't use AI to deliver outsized returns for your customer. Like we can deliver a better result to the customer, help them find more. That's the goal.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. How is how's 2025 looking? What does the future hold for NetSPI?
Yeah, I mean, so it's starting strong. I mean, we're still in Q1, so it's
Early
it's
days.
a race. It's always a race, and every lap's got to be faster. But yeah, looking really good. I mean, candidly, there's a little shakiness in the market last year. We saw a lot of our customers just very focused on efficiency, on consolidation. So,
Yeah,
a good example of that is just consolidation on their tool sprawl, like all the software that they have. That's actually worked very well in our favor. So as a platform company, our message is like, look, it's very expensive, not only from a license perspective, but also for the staff to run all these disparate systems for things like ASM and CASM and BAS and all this stuff. Like, do it in one platform and allow that data to inform different, cross-cutting use cases and features that the standalones don't have. So some of those challenges in 2024 actually have worked really well for us coming into 25. But we've got big goals. We always have significant growth goals. We're always looking at M&A opportunities. It's never a dull moment. But the key for us is always like we've got to continue to recruit and retain the best talent in the industry globally. We've got about 700 team members around the world. I try to get out and see as many of them as I can as often as possible, and they're fired up. They're excited about the coming year. I actually had a call, an all hands call with our team in Pune, India this morning, and always great to see them. I can't get over there as much as I'd like, so we just had to do a Zoom today, but it's a great team.
yeah, no, that's amazing. I love that. How out of curiosity, and I know it's probably something you did touch on, but how do you keep that? Consolidate a good team, keep everything up, and yeah, like you mentioned, just keep getting the right people and the right recruitment, and keeping them and retaining them. How do you do that the best you can, really?
Well, it's one of the things when I look back to Deke George as the founder of NetSPI, that culture that he embedded in the company that we've worked really hard to maintain, and really the right word is to curate over the years. And it just comes down to hiring more good people. So like if you have a really solid A leadership team, they are going to hire other A's. And but the second that you start relaxing your standards from a management perspective and leadership perspective, they will hire people that really don't fit the culture, and then it's the beginning of the end. So it starts with solid leadership and hiring practices, and then of course, the unfortunate part about it that maybe we don't talk about so much is that you need to prune talent as well. There's people where it's just not a good fit. They're maybe, don't have the level of seniority they need, or they're just not at the right time in their life to deliver at the level you need. And you need to have, obviously, conversations with them to let them know what's coming. And if you need to make a move and move them out of the org, then so be it. That's how you curate, a solid culture.
Love that. Absolutely love it. Yeah, it seems something like my bosses say, to be fair, it's about the culture. It's about hiring the right people at the top, but then also getting some good people at that sort of younger, more hungry, and that you can train and develop into those leaders as well. So it's having that sort of fine balance. But I think the most important thing is having a culture and sticking to that culture when you're hiring as much as you can. And then from there, that ethos just flows through the business, which is so important. So
I feel pretty passionate about promoting from within, and there's times we go outside, and there's recent examples of executives from the outside that we've hired that have just been incredible. But the energy from promoting within is awesome, and it does help maintain the culture as well. And we've done a lot of it.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, look, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to cover. We've touched on everything there. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I just want to obviously say thanks again to you, Aaron, for joining us, joining me on the Hubscale podcast. Absolute pleasure. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah, it was a pleasure, and thanks for the continued partnership, man. Really appreciate it.